Welcome to Why Such a Fuss, an exciting new channel dedicated to help individuals and businesses to learn more about data protection in a way that is easy and engaging. I'm Cristina from CVG Solutions, and I am a fully qualified data protection professional. I am passionate about educating, empowering, and enabling businesses to thrive. Remember to like and subscribe to this channel and help us to spread the word. Data protection is there for a reason. It protects you, your family, loved ones, customers, employees from coming to harm through the use of personal data. So make sure you click subscribe. Now, get ready to embark on a journey of growth and knowledge as we dive into the world of data protection. I'm delighted to have Jonathan Cozens joining me again today on the podcast. Jonathan, welcome and great to have you back.
Thanks very much. Yeah, good to be here.
Good. Now, for those of you that have not joined us before, in a previous episode, Jonathan is the author of Clarity Driven, which is a book that I really enjoyed reading, and in my opinion is a book that all business leaders should read. In the previous episode, we focus primarily on the first part of the book, all about decision making, and strategies and data. And so I would really encourage you to listen to that episode, because today we're going to be covering or focusing more on the second half of the book, which is more to do with practical steps that the business should take in terms of hardware and software. Now, Jonathan, I'm just going to let you lead on this, if you don't mind, and really just ask you to walk us through this part of the book where you share some really good insights that actually, as I was reading it, brought back so many memories of my time in IT management. So, Jonathan, the floor is yours.
Okay, so where we got to last time was around understanding the role that data has in business. Now, again, it's very important to keep in mind here that data is not a technical topic. It's not a technical subject. It's the lifeblood of management. So everything that I'm here to say and everything that the book is about business management. The second half of the book delves into the areas and topics that the business leaders need to at least understand to manage technical functions effectively, but no further. So, in other words, I do talk a little bit about IT systems, but only to the extent that a management team needs to understand them and the value in them so they can manage them effectively. The actual how and what, let your IT people deal with that. Outsource it, whatever you need to do. It doesn't really matter. So long as the technical side of things is taken care of, then tick, you've done it. But understanding why those things need to happen and how they impact on business management, I believe is a crucial part of running a business. And I feel a lot gets sort of lumped into, it's technical, let the technical people worry about it. No, absolutely not. There is a responsibility on business ownership and business management teams to at least understand what's going on, because why it's happening is important. So with that in mind, we have looked at how data empowers and fuels better decision making, and the better quality data you have, the more effective your decision making will be. And when I say effective, what I mean is you will be able to make decisions with greater horizons. You will be able to decide today things that will not bear fruit for a year, 18 months, 2 years. And you might say, well, why not wait until you need the results? And of course, the reality is that sometimes these things take a year, 18 months, 2 years to actually be ready. So for example, if you are growing your business slowly today and your factory or your warehouse or some limiting factor is big enough, but you can see a future in which it won't be, then you might need to decide today to buy a bigger factory or a warehouse or whatever, because it's going to take 18 months to plan the transition, to buy the facility, to fit it all out, and so on and so forth. You cannot wait until you need it before making the decision. Now, of course, these are big ticket items. These are highly, highly risky decisions to make, but make them you must. And so there's nowhere to hide, right? You are responsible for the outcome. So you have to make the best decisions you can today with an outcome in a somewhat uncertain future, which leads us back to high quality data. If you can rely on the information that you're basing your decisions on, then you have a much better chance of making good long-term decisions.
Yeah.
Now, all this data, as we looked at, comes out of your business processes. Once you understand how you do what you do, and the people that execute what you do, are doing it in a predictable and repeatable fashion, then the next step is to automate all of those processes. And of course, that's where software comes in, because software that's the way you automate anything.
Yeah, it's an enabler to the business.
Absolutely. Exactly that. Now, in the book, I talk about 3 different kinds of software. And it's very, three different kind of broad categories of software. And it's very important to understand why they're different and what role they have to play, because what I've seen a lot of times, many times, is businesses get fixated, they get stuck on one particular category of software, and then struggle to understand why growing the business becomes difficult. So just to recap on those very quickly, the 3 categories of software are general purpose, task aware, and business aware. Now, general purpose software is whatever you get when you buy a computer. Typically, it's Microsoft Office, but it could be the Google set of tools. And the point about general purpose software is it's general purpose. It'll do anything. A spreadsheet can mean anything that you decide that it means. A Word document, any kind of document can mean
and also generic because it's not specific to any process that the organization might need, or yeah.
Absolutely that. Now, the problem that you've got there is that a piece of software that will do anything won't do any one thing particularly well. It can't, because it's general. And so the workarounds that get built into using spreadsheets to manage your business very quickly swallow any productivity benefits that using a spreadsheet in the first place had.
Yes.
And
because it's still a very manual process anyway. You still need to have a human, so to speak, that puts the data into the spreadsheets.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you for highlighting that, because it's fundamental. The thing that people are horrifically bad at is inputting or translating data. It's slow, it's error prone. If you're trying to read something and type it back into another system, you'll make mistakes like I's and ones and L's all look the same, and O's and zeros look the same, and so on and so on. Data entry errors are very common, and data entry processes are very slow.
Yeah.
And to your point, if you are using general purpose tools, then you are relying on people to do a lot of this translation and data entry activity. So where general purpose software wins is it's easy to use, it's pretty much free, it's just some cheap tool, let's get started, it's a great thing to start with, right? Wouldn't knock that for a moment. Email, fantastic, right? Everybody knows how to use email, we'll use that because it lowers the barriers to entry. Where it gets a bit tricky is, because it worked to begin with, it's quite a brave move. It feels like a brave move to go, okay, we're going to abandon all the tools and systems that we started with in favor of some unknown set of tools and systems that, and you can see why that's quite a scary thing to do. So what happens is people tend not to do it, and you'll end up with a £1 million business being run by one monster spreadsheet. I've seen it many times, and
I
I'm,
can
I'm sure you
see,
have as well.
when you just say that, I can see, risk all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely, it happens a lot, and it's completely understandable. I'm not saying that management teams are lazy or don't care. These are highly focused, highly motivated people. But taking that leap from the tools and systems that you started with that have done you good service this far,
Yeah,
and saying, okay, I can see where the end of their usefulness
yeah.
appears. We're going to do something different now.
It's the sort of, the unknown, the uncertainty, the leap into something new that we don't know. It looks good, but is it going to actually work fine? And
Exactly.
so it's a big decision. I get it. And
Yeah.
nevertheless, like you say, you must make it.
So the next step up the value chain is what I've decided to call task aware software. And the definition of task aware is that it understands a chunk of your business. It understands the task you are trying to achieve. So, for example, a finance package like QuickBooks or Xero or Sage or something like that. In inverted commas, it understands what you are trying to do. It understands the financial processes in a business. It understands what reporting is for compliance and tax and all those kinds of things. It understands what the inputs are or the inputs need to be to generate the required outputs. Now, that's great, right? Because all of a sudden, all of your process activity is now built around a system that understands what you're trying to do. And so you don't have to adapt business language into, right, well, I'll type this into this cell and
Yeah.
hope that that cell over there. All of a sudden you say, right, well, look, these are my sales numbers. These are my VAT figures. And you enter them as sales and VAT into a system that understands the relationship between sales and VAT, for example.
Yeah.
So this is a big step up in process maturity. It helps you to create a world where the tools you are using talk the same language as the people that are running the business.
And also
And
deals with the complexity of the data relationship.
absolutely that. Absolutely that. Yes. And the really big win, it doesn't sound like it from a distance, but it is. The biggest win from task aware software is that you get intelligent management reporting.
Mm.
This is where the data you need to make effective decisions comes from. It comes from the reporting functions of the software you're using. Now, to take a step back, the reporting from general purpose software is no better than whatever you tell it to do. And you'd better hope that your understanding of how reports work is good enough.
And you better hope that the formulas that you've got in your spreadsheets are correct.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
Because if you got the comma in the wrong place, that's it.
there you have it, right? And you won't know until it's too late.
Mm.
Or at least you're very unlikely to spot it until it's too late.
Yeah.
Now, so that's great, right? Task aware software, it understands what we're trying to do. And it also, and I cannot emphasize this enough, it gives you meaningful management reporting. It enables you to make better decisions.
Yeah.
But there is a limitation. Well, in fact, there's two limitations. One is there's a learning curve. Task aware software doesn't work straight out of the box. You need to set it up for your trading environment and you need to learn how to use it. And depending on who your users are, that might possibly be a scary prospect. And so, again, I've seen this on many occasions. You'll get people who nod and smile and say, yes, okay, the new system, I love it. But what they're actually doing is using their old spreadsheets to do the calculations that they understand. And then they're uploading the revised data into the system. You can see how that's sudden death, right? But it happens because the human element, the human aspect is not given the attention and the resource that it demands. You must make sure that your people are on board.
Yeah.
But once you've cleared that hurdle, and once you've cleared the complexity hurdle, the learning piece, the limitation here is that you end up, if you say, well, okay, this is fabulous, I'll use a piece of software for finance and a piece of software for marketing and a piece of software for sales and a piece of software for every other thing that you need to do. You end up with a lot of silos. And yes, you will get meaningful management reports from all of them. So it's good. It's definitely a step up. But the data interchange between those bits of software is not
The
baked.
end-to-end is missing, isn't it?
The end-to-end is missing, precisely that. And you have automatically diluted a lot of the expected benefit from migrating your processes into high quality software, because you kind of expect an end-to-end benefit, but
Yeah,
it's not
from
there.
a leadership perspective, you need to have that sort of overarching view, don't you, across all of the multiple functions and therefore across all the multiple task software, if I can call it that way.
Yes. Yeah. So, but task-aware software is a good step up, right? It's a good first step in terms of operational and management maturity,
Yes.
because it does force you to think in a structured way, and it gives you some of the benefit of best practice.
Yeah.
And when I say best practice, what I'm talking about is a lot of the default logic and a lot of the default rules that come with software packages are actually a distillation of best practice from right across their customer base.
Yeah.
So they will have however many customers, all of whom are saying, look, can it do this? Can it do that? Can it do that? Can it do that?
Yeah.
And the people that write and maintain the software will look at all of those requests and go, hey, that one was a really good idea. We'll bake that into the software and then everybody benefits.
Yeah.
So there is an argument to be made that says, yes, you must absolutely understand and document all of your processes prior to baking them into your software. But at the same time, look at the way the software works, look at its own internal rule set, its own logic, and say, well, look, if I'm being brutally honest here, is their way better than mine? Do I really want to claim to be the very best in everything? Or could I possibly learn from the distilled best practice from right across their customer base?
Yeah.
That's a choice for you. That's a choice for you as a management team. But all I'm saying is it's an option. So this siloed nature is not an insurmountable problem. It's a bit of a pain, but it's not insurmountable. There are methods and techniques by which you can get software packages to talk to each other.
Yeah.
That's heading off into a little bit of technicality, so I won't dwell on it, but you can
have
stitch
interfaces
together.
across them.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. But you definitely miss out on end-to-end management reporting. Each piece of software is only truly aware of what it does. It's not aware of anything upstream and it's not aware of anything downstream, even though they talk to each other. That's purely a functional transaction. I'm now outputting the minimum amount of data that you need, next piece of software, to get your job done.
Yeah.
So the management reporting piece will remain segmented. And bearing in mind what we're talking about here, the whole context is you must have good management reporting. How do you solve that? You solve it with the next category of software, which is business aware. And this is where you find a software solution that understands your industry. So you could argue that marketing and sales and service delivery and such, all of those activities are common to every business, even though you might do them in different ways. But if you are an estate agent or a veterinary practice or a manufacturer or a large retailer, those industry segments are big enough and the problems that they experience operating their businesses are common enough that software solutions will have been written specifically for
That
that
particular
business
industry.
type.
Mm.
And there are websites out there that operate simply as software clearinghouses. And you could say, I want software for a retailer or for a manufacturer or for a logistics company or whatever it is you do. And you will find software solutions that understand your business or the generic version of your business.
Yeah.
And this has two huge advantages. It has some caveats, but it has two huge advantages. One is now you can bake in your business processes from one end to the other. From the first touch of marketing to the last touch of whatever your post-sale support looks like.
Yeah. And also it takes care of the internal function like HR, payroll, that kind of stuff, finance. Yeah.
Absolutely. I hate the phrase, right? I hate the phrase back office because it feels a bit sort of
Yeah.
dismissive.
But yeah.
But it's a common in use. Those back office functions, yeah,
Yes.
they're critical, right? And they have a role to play. You must understand how. But so for example, in the book, I give an example and say, look, can you say today how an 8% growth in your marketing yield will impact your hiring schedule?
Mm-hmm.
Because you could see that better marketing performance will drive sales, which will drive whatever it is you do, which could, in theory,
Increase.
accelerate your hiring schedule.
Yeah.
But until you understand the cause and effect nature of all of those steps and can see how they link together, then your business growth and your improved marketing and all those good things, they'll catch your HR team by surprise. Well,
Yeah.
we need somebody next month. Well, you should have told me 4 months ago. Well, we didn't know 4 months ago, and so on and so forth, right? Now, so this is the kind of thing that business aware software does for you. It gives you end-to-end process automation.
Yeah.
And of course, but the corollary of that is it gives you end-to-end management reporting.
Yes.
You can start to say what kind of reports are critical from the business overall. And we talk about KPIs, right? But again, you can tease your KPIs out of this, but you can take a very much more broad brush view of what kinds of things does a management team need to know across the business as opposed to little snippets from here and there.
Yeah.
Now, so business aware software sounds great, right? Love it. Problem solved. Well, yes, but, and there are two huge, well, no, there are two very, very important things to keep in mind here. The biggest one is the adoption overheads. I'm not even leading on cost, right? This stuff's expensive. It's net hugely good value, but it is expensive.
Yeah.
But the biggest barrier that you've got to get across is the adoption. You must have your people on board. You must have them enthused and excited about it. You must have process experts in super user type roles.
Yes.
You must have the process owners, your heads of department, fully invested in the success of this project. Unless you have those things, no amount of technology will save you. It will fail. And the reason that I wanted to lead on that is my experience has taught me that this is the bit that gets bolted on last. I mean, I'd love to hear your experience on this, but cost and complexity and all of those things, yeah, those are
Yeah.
numerical challenges, but it's the people side of it because this software impacts the whole of the business.
Yeah.
So the risks are high, the rewards are high, but the risks are high. What's been your experience in looking at end-to-end software solutions and the adoption?
So, I mean, in terms of the implementation, because obviously I come from a project management
Mm.
background, in terms of implementing it, I totally agree with you. You need the people on board, you need your senior leaders, you need the process owners, you absolutely need the super users. and you really need to sort of watch what sort of the people on the ground, if I can put it that way, how they've adopted it. Because in organization where they're less mature when it comes to adopting change, if you do a walk, a flow walk, you will see people doing it manually first, like they used to do, and then pretend that they're sort of doing it automatically because they then upload. So
Yes.
they're actually
Yeah.
duplicating. So you
Yes.
actually increase the workload for them, or they have done it to themselves. So the productivity is actually decreasing. But in organization where the people are included in the change, where there is a more mature change culture, then things are adopted much more smoothly and quicker. And so the benefits are seen quicker because the people are adopting it quicker. So it's not just about switching it on, get them to train how to use the tool. There is the people side to get them to change with it and
Yeah.
adopting it and understanding how that helps their piece of work. Because you got to remember that people are scared, oh, these things is going to take away my job. When in reality, it probably isn't. It's making their job easier. It provides more opportunity for them to grow, potentially even promotions. So actually, it's an opportunity. And so you need to absolutely manage that the right way, communicate, get them on board, and really engage them in the process, because otherwise is going to fail. And then not only the cost that you invested, the money that you invest in it, it will be a waste, but you've gone through the pain for nothing and you're still back at square one.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, again, in the book, I talk about the fear factor, the perception that this could undermine my value to the company and undermine my
Yeah.
job. And there's actually another very good book, The Penguins Managing Change.
All
Uh,
right.
I'll dig it out, but it was a particularly good book on the people side of change management. That fear factor is one that needs very careful, very delicate handling. Here's the other way to look at it, right? Here, just as an alternative point of view, supposing you're rolling out some large piece of software like this and your people are worried, and you said to them, well, look, 80% of your job is doing the same thing over and over again. That's what your working day looks like. 80% is do this, good and good, you've done it. Do this, good and good, you've done it, right? That is not a rewarding way to spend your life. Only 20% of your job requires interpretation or escalation or some kind of problem solving, intuitive, this is outside what we normally do, but how best can I? That's where people are at their strongest, right? That's where people really, really deliver extra value because they're imaginative, creative people.
Yes.
So you can make the argument, and it's absolutely true, that if you automate 80% of your job, the 80%, the dull bit, the repetitive bit, the bit that brings you no joy at all,
Mm.
wouldn't it be nice to have all of the time that you needed for interpretation and creativity and imagination and all of those problem solving things
Yeah.
that pop up? And at the moment, they might freak you out because it's comparatively rare. And you go, oh, I haven't thought about this. But if you were required, if most of your job, to put it another way, if most of your job was around problem solving and interpretation and those good things,
It would
because
be
the
much more
software is doing all the dull
rewarding.
bit, yeah, wouldn't that be more rewarding? Exactly that.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, you
But
can't
also,
guarantee that, but that's
it
the
would
prospect.
also, yeah, but it would also facilitate personal growth as well, because you have more time and more energy as well as mental capacity to think outside the box.
Yes.
Um, or research things, etc. So yeah, I totally agree. And then in terms of going back to the software, because one of the things that you touch in the book is that, and you've kind of mentioned it already, is that that you can get software that it's specifically been built for your industry and therefore already has within it best practices, etc. But that's not the end of the story in terms of while you might be, I don't know, a veterinary practice, and so you operate largely similar to other veterinary practices. And so you could buy an end-to-end business management software that it's kind of off the shelf. But there might be some things that you do slightly different for whatever reason. And so you need an element of customization. And so that's also an option to the organization, rather than if that particular step in the process that is critical to your business, the off the shelf doesn't cover it for whatever reason, because it's specific to you, to your business, then you could customize that particular software rather than drop that particular steps, which I've also seen, and that causes all sorts of issues to the business. So yes, of course, there is some cost involved. I'm not saying it's free, but ultimately the benefits to the organization in terms of productivity, customer service, increased sales, growth, are worth the cost, are worth the expenditure, to enable you to grow with a strong footprint. I think that's how I can put it.
Hmm. So this is a slightly tricky landscape to navigate because there are so many different points of view. Now, let me explain here. The scenario you just gave is 100% valid, right? If you have identified a process gap in the software you're using because your business is genuinely, demonstrably unique, innovative, it's done something wild and crazy and fabulous, then yeah, now you have both a challenge and an opportunity. The challenge is how are we going to automate those things that make us different? But the opportunity is, hey, if we can automate them, then we're going to own this market segment, right? We're going to be wildly successful. Now, there are a number of ways of solving that particular problem. One, you can go to your existing software vendor and say, look, we'd like a custom piece of software written. Two, you can go to a software house and say, look, let's start from scratch. I want you to write some piece of software that does this thing. Or three, you can go to, again, it would be a software vendor, but they would take some existing very general purpose solution and modify it so much for your purposes that it looks custom built from the ground up. Now, those are all actually, I mean, those are all different examples of the same solution. And that solution is absolutely valid. However, be mindful that in the process of exploring this solution, of this option, you're going to have some things to keep in mind. The first question to ask yourself is this genuinely different? Or is it us just hanging on to process that could be done in a different way? We're just invested in, we're highly invested in our way of doing it because we've been doing it this way for 15 years or whatever. The next one is the people that write software, they're running a business. They've got a sales function as well. And the one thing that they will absolutely try and do, because they should, is convince you that yes, your business is absolutely unique and you absolutely need custom written software.
Yes.
And they might be right. And you might be unique and you might need custom written software. But bear in mind, just keep in mind that that is a sales process. So internally, and again, this is a senior management function, internally, you need to go back to your process maps. You need to go back to how you do what you do and say, look, is there really, honestly, genuinely a gap here? And if there is, that could be the best news you've had this year, because that gap is innovation. That gap means you're going to transform whatever it is that you do in your industry, and you're going to clean up. Wonderful, happy days. And the cost of having software custom written for you will be vanishingly small compared to the benefit of doing it.
Yeah.
But there are, again, it's outside the scope of the chat, but I do go into it in a lot of detail in the book.
Yeah.
There are a number of gotchas around having software written specifically for you. And it's worth keeping those in mind if you're heading off down that road. But I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. You absolutely should explore it, but be honest with yourself while you're doing it.
Yeah. Do your homework, line your ducks in a row, and really be sure that what that particular step is unique to you. It's different, rather than we've been doing it like this for many, many years. Why change? Because then you're going to spend money for nothing in return, really. All right, excellent. Thank you, Jonathan. Was there anything else you wanted to add from the book that we haven't covered yet?
There is one thing.
Okay.
And I sort of nod to it right at the end of the book. But to close on, here's a thought experiment. Let's assume that you, the audience, have an exit scenario in mind, right? Whether it's a retirement or a trade sale or whatever your exit looks like, it doesn't really matter. Supposing you've got a good idea of what your business is going to look like at that exit scale, right? I mean, hopefully, but my challenge is imagine it in great detail. Imagine the transaction volume, the sales volume, the number of people, the space they'll need, all of the infrastructure, right? What does your business look like? Imagine a day in the life, a week in the life of this business at your exit scale. Understand it, see it, visualize it. There's a problem baked in. Your planning will probably already have stopped at that point, right? You won't have planned beyond your exit. Suppose you do really well. You get some great software and you get some great implementation people and you get fantastic project management, because let's face it, that's what you need. And you reach your exit scenario in half the time. Now you've got a problem. Do you want to exit in half the time because clearly you're doing better than you thought you would? Or do you want to hang on and go for your original time frame, but now you've run out of plan? Now you don't know where you're going. So here's the thought to end on. Imagine your business at the very least 10 times its current size, at the very least 50 times its current size. Pick some big number, right? And now imagine that business in great detail, a day in the life, a week in the life, a month in the life of a monster business. Now, is it just doing what you're doing today? Are there other things that it could be doing by then? Of course there are. Imagine what those would look like. Here's my point. Plan for that. Build your plan out to whatever you feel that it'll take to get to that scale. Leave your exit criteria where they are. But if you hit them early, all of a sudden you've not run out of plan. Yeah. Now you know what the journey already looks like. And like 5 months away from your exit, you've still got to make decisions that will bear fruit in 3 years' time, right? You don't want to not make those decisions just in case the future's even better than you thought it was. Yeah. So there's my challenge. Think beyond the exit and build a plan for that.
Fantastic, Jonathan. Thank you very much. I just want to remind everybody. So here's the book, Clarity Driven. As you can see, I've made my notes. You can get it from Amazon and also on retailers, am I right? On some bookstores. Yes. And thank you very much, Jonathan, again for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure. Love talking to you. And if any of you would like to get in touch with me, you can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. just search for CVG Solutions or just simply email me at info@cvgsolutions.co.uk. Jonathan, how can the audience get in touch with you should they wish to do so?
LinkedIn and Facebook, but LinkedIn is the best place to get me. I'm there all over it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you again.
Thank
And
you.
cheers. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.